Hello and welcome to the Art of Deductive Reasoning. My name is Cardall, and this is going to be the very first in a series of videos where I will go over with you certain techniques, methods that I have come across, and some of them even I've developed that help one in making deductions, much like the great Sherlock Holmes. I've posted two videos before this. One of them, the first one I made specifically for my website, The Art of Deductive Reasoning, which is at WordPress.com, which is, no, The Art of Deductive Reasoning.wordpress.com. Getting myself mixed up here. The link is in the description below, and you should check it out. I write a lot of blogs there, detailing the techniques, but I'm kind of using this visual aid now, and I kind of understand how today's world is kind of all digital. It's the digital age, and look at me, I'm a teenager who's not really in the loop with the digital age. But yeah, so I'm doing this. Apparently the YouTube thing is very successful for a lot of people. Matthew Santoro is one of the people whom I have been inspired to do this by, and I'll put a link to his channel right here. And yeah, so in the future expect list videos, expect the explanation of concepts, and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to be quiet right now. My little sister is asleep in the other room. Kind of filming this at night, but and I'm also kind of tired right now. So in future videos, I will be trying to be a little bit more lively, because I filmed this like 3 times now, and keep on going back and looking over. And I really hate my video voice right now, because it's so monotone. I'm talking like this all the time because I'm just so tired. But in future videos I won't be like that. I'll be a lot more lively because I'll be a lot more awake. But so kind of to kickstart this off, I'm gonna explain a concept to you. Just get into the mood of things. So you might have heard, if you've taken geometry or in some other disciplines of math, they talk about inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. Now, those are two different things, but they go together so well. They go together in math, in criminal investigations. They go together in scientific method, and so understanding the differences between them and how they work together is paramount if you want to be able to make deductions. And I go into this in depth in my first blog post on my website. Again, the link to the website is in the description. But so what inductive reasoning is? Inductive reasoning is sort of, your conclusion is based solely off of your premise. So you make an observation, and you make a conjecture based on that observation and that alone. With deductive reasoning, you have an observation, but your conclusion isn't necessarily based completely off of your premise. So you take other bits and pieces of knowledge that you know here and there, and you use it in order to make a deduction about your observation. So that's the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning. I go into it a little bit more in depth on my website, but so that's basically the differences between the two. Now, how do they work together? Well, first, inductive reasoning has a lot of speed, that's its advantage. Deductive reasoning has a lot of accuracy, whereas inductive reasoning isn't all that accurate, because you're only making a conjecture based on what you see and not based on what you know previously. So, say you make an observation. Let's say you make an observation about that Spider-Man poster over in the corner over there. You can make a conjecture that it's, scratch that theory, start over. So, let's say you have a scenario where you make an observation and you make a conjecture about it based on that observation. Now, you can take that conjecture and you can cross-reference it with things that you already know. So compare what you see with what you know. So based on that conjecture, you make a deduction about it. And if the conjecture is correct, the deductive part of it will prove it. But if the conjecture is incorrect, based on the deductive reasoning, you throw that theory out of the window and you start over again. And so that's kind of a bit of a shortcut. Now you can just solely go in there with deductive reasoning. You make an observation and you just comb through your brain and you just think about how does that relate to what you already know. And that can take a lot longer than when you just look at something, make a conjecture, a logical conjecture based on it that may or may not be correct, and then check that conjecture with a deduction. And that's kind of the purpose of Watson to Holmes. If you watch Sherlock, which is by far my favorite show, you kind of understand how Watson's always asking questions, like he's always putting forth his theories, just randomly off the top of his head. Well, it could be this or it could be that. And the reason why that's so important to Holmes is it's kind of like you or I making a conjecture. Watson doing that allows Holmes to kind of think about that, see if it would work, and if it doesn't, well then obviously it's incorrect. And so that's one of the helps Watson gives Holmes, and also Holmes doesn't really need another brain around, he's got one. Another reason he keeps Watson around is because Watson is just so reliable. And also, Holmes kind of admits in the books that Watson, explaining his theories and his deductions to Watson, is kind of become like the pipe. He smokes the pipe in order to help him think. Explaining things to Watson also helps him think. So Watson has become sort of a habit of his, if you will. And so, in your kind of journey, if you will, to make deductions, make conjectures, it's good if you have someone to talk to about it. Like, you get a friend and just bounce off each other. You guys can work together and sort of make deductions and conjectures together and see what would work and what wouldn't. And through that practice, you can get a lot better. And that's another thing. Deduction, making deductions, conjectures, all of it, it takes practice, 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 practice. You always have to practice. Now, granted, in the early stages, as you're an amateur, it's going to take you a little bit longer to kind of read people. So, you're basically going to be looking at someone like this for a while. Or something of that nature. I've never done that before. But no, in all seriousness, you're gonna take a long time to make the deductions on about a person when you're just starting out. I gone through that. I sometimes still go through that. One of the best ways to practice, in my opinion, is just to watch videos of people, like preferably in an interview of a person, where you get to, excuse me, you get to look at them, you get to look at their patterns. They're not scripted, so you get to see their regular speech patterns and whatnot, and you get to look at them without anybody questioning why you're looking at them. So by doing that, you get to make conjectures and deductions about the person without having the questioning looks of the third parties, if you will, because that can get kind of awkward. And as you progress, as you practice, you can get a lot faster at making the deductions. Like, for instance, if you want to start practicing right now, start practicing by looking at me, trying to understand how I, based on my speech patterns, my hand movements, the way my eyes move, my skin complexion, my facial expressions, all the way I hold myself. That's one way. That's one part of making a deduction about a person. And then you look at their clothes. You look at what's on their clothes. Are their clothes clean? What's that little speck there? How could it get there? And you make deductions based on that. And as you progress, you'll start to know that it gets a little bit more intuitive. Not that it's intuition in the sense that you're just randomly poofing this theory into existence, but intuitive in the sense that you've gotten so used to it that it's a second nature to you. Got something in the back of my throat, probably dust. But yeah, so that's the basics of it. And just leaving you with something. I'm going to try to make this a regular thing, like a video every week. But in the start of this, I'm going to try to get a lot of videos, going. Like, I'll probably post one tomorrow. In fact, count on it being about the science of observation. Because, now that you know about deductive and inductive reasoning and how to apply them, now you just need to know how to make observations. So in these first few videos, I'm going to go over the basics, and after that, some more methods on how to learn up. I've left you with some things right here, so hope to see you guys again, and if you like this video, please subscribe, visit the website, give that like button to click. Also, visit some of my, the people who inspired me on YouTube. Matthew Santoro, I'll put a link right here. Also, if you get the chance, read the Sherlock Holmes books. Watch the Sherlock BBC television series. A really good starter book if you're looking for a Sherlock Holmes book is probably this one. Don't be alarmed, this isn't one novel. It's a compilation of novels. It's The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So, like, it starts out with A Scandal in Bohemia, which is probably about 20 pages long. So it's not it's just a bunch of short stories, not all of the short stories, not in chronological order either, just a bunch of short stories that Conan Doyle made about Sherlock Holmes. It's not the complete set, but it's a good starter for you. And you can get this at Barnes & Noble, and it's just a good way to start off with understanding the character, how he makes the deductions, and what can be the downfall with pride and a lot of other things that cause him to make faulty deductions, and how he overcomes those obstacles. So, I'll see you guys later, and bye.